Well, hello, that's me again. Today is July 7th. It is Sunday. For some people, it's the end of the day of Sunday. It's morning for us here on the West Coast. So, today I'm going to be talking about something which is going to be, for some people, very controversial, but for others, it will be just long overdue. And this is a very complex issue. And I want to make a disclaimer from the get-go. What I say by no means is the, broad brush, and I want to generalize to the point of being simply ridiculous. There are many honorable people in American military still. There are many people who are very heroic, but we need to talk about today what is basically will be, generalized as the social cultural milieu, if you wish, in which things happen of this nature. And then, of course, we need to think about why now this has been revealed, although it has been known fact for anybody in Russia. So we'll start with what I would go and remind you. 3 weeks ago, Judge Napolitano and Colonel Larry Wilkerson, and it was a wonderful discussion, and you have to applaud Larry Wilkerson, who well, he made some wrong choices during his service life, including Iraq, but then again, he found civic courage and military courage, human courage, to actually condemn those mistakes and, refute, well, basically admit them and move on and change his position on many issues of that time, and I applaud him for this because it does indeed takes a lot of human courage. So speaking to Judge Napolitano 3 weeks ago, he talks about that actually you can go and listen to this wonderful podcast, and it is how to say it, it's really shocking for some people who grew up on this and drank this Kool-Aid of American exceptionalism, that today the US flag hangs in shame. And there are many reasons why it does so, apart from the fact that many people, of course, go too far back in history. But the point is, for the last 35 years, United States was nothing more than basically expeditionary sowing of their atrocities and, suffering around the world. And Larry acknowledges this, and Judge Napolitano obviously was asking this for a reason, because obviously he feels the same, and they are right to feel the same. And here we have to keep in mind this. Suddenly New York Times comes out and publishes this, which is, it has been known, in Russia it has been known, the same as the moral, so to speak, appearance, or rather lack of the moral appearance of those people from the United States and Western Europe who are allegedly, shock troops, as these imbeciles from the New York Times tell. Well, primarily those people are there as the barrier troops. They primarily shoot in the backs of the Ukrainian retreating troops. But here it is. In Ukraine, killings of surrendering Russians divide an American-led unit. Well, funny, a German medic said he was so troubled that he confronted his commander. Others boasted about killings in a group chat. So, well, what can I say? We can continue and read the article, and let's kind of go over it. And Mr. Grosse, who is a medic, said that a fellow soldier hopped over and fired his weapon into the Russian soldier's torso, who was surrendering. He slumped, still breathing. Another soldier fired, just shot him in head, Mr. Grosse recalled in an interview. So, well, what can I say? Shooting POWs as well as torturing. You will say, oh, they are so-called volunteers, and they are, soldiers of fortune, and they are really probably scumbags. Well, I have some news for you. Those scumbags and soldiers of fortune, many of them are really not soldiers of fortune. They are undercover cadre American military, and we can continue and read what they were doing there. So, as you can see yourself, the shooting of the unarmed wounded Russian soldier is one of the several killings that have unsettled settle the chosen company. Well, the guys are definitely, well, have a lot of and high praise about themselves, you know, chosen company. One of the best known units of international troops fighting on behalf of Ukraine. So, well, I don't know, known by who, but evidently we have a really well-established pattern of the My Lai village, you know, atrocities committed against defenseless people. This has become a hallmark of the US military. You know, so, and I will explain to you why it has become a hallmark of the U.S. Army, especially in Afghanistan and Iraq. And Mr. Gross' witness recollection is the only available evidence of the trench killing, but his accounts of other episodes are bolstered by his contemporaneous notes, video footage, and text messages exchanged by members of the unit and reviewed by the Times. So the Times continues to explain what those chosen are. Killing prisoners of war is a violation of the Geneva Conventions. Well, I'm sorry, guys, but that's what you have been doing for a while. Should I go and recall, you know, remind everybody what was happening in Afghanistan or in Iraq? So, I mean, and this was done actually by the cadre officers. This wasn't done by some quote-unquote volunteers. So they say once soldiers clearly indicate an intention to surrender, they cannot be attacked and must be safely taken into custody. The Ukrainian government has repeatedly pointed at Russian troops killing unarmed and surrendering soldiers as proof of Moscow lawlessness. Well, we know that the veracity of the Ukrainian or Kiev regime basically information or whatever they try to describe as the so-called Russian atrocities is absolute bunk. It's the bunk created in the deep recesses of the, you know, scumbags in MI6 or in CIA, and this whole propaganda war. And yeah, West buys it because, you know, and I will explain why West, especially United States, buys it. So New York Times continues. But the United States military, a video showing the killing of a surrendering soldier, regardless of the circumstances, would prompt an immediate investigation, said Rachel E. Van Lingham, a professor at the Southwestern Law School and former U.S. Air Force lawyer. Really, I have actually problems with this statement, because if we look attentively at what atrocities committed by the cadre U.S. Army recently, well, relatively recently, in the last 20 years, much of it has been a result of the whistleblowing and actually, U.S. Army reacting on it is post factum. So, but here what he says, this former U.S. Air Force lawyer, failure to investigate is more troubling than the incident itself. Mr. Van Lindeman says, lack of accountability starts with lack of investigation. Well, I don't know. It's pretty much troubling when you kill defenseless people, which is actually United States military starting from Vietnam has become known for. And it's not only that. And if you think so that I'm somehow kind of, you know, muddy waters here, and I project this on the U.S. military, let me put it this way. A lot what is happening in terms of special military operation and what it exposed in terms of the, for example, American military, which have been exposed as rather incompetent. And all those fluffy terms for this chosen company, you know, all those SEALs, you know, who go out and, you know, just change the warfare. They change nothing. None of them ever experienced anything like the warfare on the in Ukraine. As I already stated, there is literally nobody in U.S. military who understands what it is. So you have those kids and guys who, some of whom probably killed many people in Afghanistan and in Iraq, who thinks that they are the it thing. So they get into the modern battlefield. They are completely bombarded by a lot of things. Now, it is well-known fact, not for once stated by Russian Defense Ministry and Russian Ministry of the Internal Affairs, that primarily all those soldiers or forces are not shock troops. They are barrier troops. Most of them prefer stay behind lines and shoot into the backs of the retreating Ukrainian troops. And yes, as the result, you have this. But the foundation of that is much deeper. It goes down to the World War II, and this famous thing, which many people don't understand, that In the Allied countries, Russians were viewed, and I quote, 10 feet tall. So they obviously, you have people who confabulated their military history. And there are ideas which basically, revolve around the, what is called, so-called esprit de corps in the US military, especially in US Army. They are based very much, for example, on the ideas of Mr. Patton, who is still being venerated, despite the fact that the guy was a racist, he hated Russian gods, and he basically, what he considered, by great general in the United States Army, while in reality the guy was a mediocre at best. So, and he wasn't even in the same league with people of the scale of Manstein, Model, or Rokossovsky and Konev, and let alone Zhukov and So, and here we are. And you have this both combination of the extreme professional jealousy, extreme professional envy, because the United States cannot fight anything similar to what Russians do, with one left hand in special military operations. They understand now they lost, because some of them are indeed professionals. They cannot fail to recognize that actually United States, as I already stated, U.S. Army is primarily lives with the TOE, Table of Organization and Equipment, from 1990s. It is actually obsolete army. In terms of air defense, it's a joke. In terms of air forces, it's primarily designed to fight people who do not have air force or have something like MiG-23 from 1960s. So when you look at this, and that combines with the professional jealousy, and then being subjected to this warfare, which they never experienced, Vietnam looks like a stroll in the park, actually, compared to what they are experiencing, being bombarded, shell-shocked, and suffering from all kinds of their mental, psychological disorders. PTSD is a part of this, and so they concentrate either on becoming, as they think, killing machine, like, killing civilians and killing their, POWs, or, they go completely mental, and they think that they are great. Well, let me show you what they experience, okay? And this is like, yesterday. Just look at this. Here are the losses from yesterday, as you can see yourself, July 6, and you have again 2,050 KIAs and wounded. So, as I already stated, easily multiplied by 2, easily. So, and then we have the tanks and APCs, 7, armored vehicles, 33, artillery and mortars, 70. It's a slaughter of the whatever the best proxy United States ever had. And again, the United States is not capable of fighting this type of war. And those, Americans who execute Russian POWs, they also throw grenades at them and things like that. It's frustration. It's not only professional jealousy, it's frustration, because obviously they understand they are inferior warriors. They're good at killing, defenseless. They are not really good at fighting modern warfare, and here they are. They've been exposed to it, and they don't like it. As the result, so suddenly New York Times noticed that, oh my gosh, they did this. Hey, they've been doing this from the day one. They've been doing this actually during Chechnya war, supporting all those Arab and Chechen terrorists who have been committing incredible tortures, for example. How about pulling sinews from Russian POWs by the hooks from their body? Well, that was actually techniques which have been taught in all those kind of, NATO and Western and US organized, services. And yeah, this was in Chechnya. So, but you know what, as I already stated, for the military which didn't win a single war, except for this, show off beating the crap out of the minor military power, such as Iraq was. Look at the record of the United States. It loses wars. There are no military officers of the highest rank who can even plan anything on the level of the Russian general staff. You have constantly this complex inferiority, which is completely, shows and exposes itself. And then, of course, add here traditional Anglo-Saxon on the so-called elites, racial attitudes towards those Untermenschen, Slavs, subhumans. So, and it's this bizarre combination of things which actually are quite traditional. Look at this. You think so? I'm just making this up. How about we rewind back to this? 2017, oh, they say because they wanted to really actually discredit the guy. No, they didn't. As you can see yourself, that in 2017, the Trump National Security Advisor, H.R. Master, challenged over human rights record. Well, let me show you something about those human rights records. And here we are. This is Mr. McMaster. He commanded regiment. I mean, that's about the level of the command he ever had. Then he went to work for the Tradoc and whatever, which is funny. But here it is. One of the JAGs, you know, he says that what he saw in April 2005 shocked Claudio. And it was in the position of the locality of the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, battling Islamic militants, and McMaster already was 54 at that time. And at a camp designed for 250 detainees, more than 900 prisoners were being held in conditions that violated U.S. regulations and Geneva Conventions governing the treatment of the prisoners of war. He found between 300 and 400 detainees, some kneeling, others laying side by side in the sand, tied together with plastic handcuffs and without food or water. He said the prisoners appeared to be severely dehydrated. Their skin was completely dry. You can see the lips that were just cut because of dryness. You can see their hair, the dirtiness of the hair. I mean, just inhumane. So Claudio next entered the tent where the detainees were supposed to be housed and discovered 400 more prisoners in equally unsanitary conditions with the same stench of feces and urine. And it's, of course, immediately recalled the memories of the Abu Ghraib. The United States has invaded Iraq 2 years earlier. The images of the torture scandal involving the U.S. Army and CIA at Abu Ghraib prison the previous year were still fresh. So, well, the guys haven't been provided with anything, those prisoners, and so, he talks about that, and we'll look at it, and he said, oh my God, this is a facility for about 250 people. We think there's about 800 or 900 people here. There has to be accountability of these people. They are human beings, he said. Well, that's El Darfur, so he comes in and talks to McMaster. McMaster greeted him rudely, he said. What came out of his mouth was basically, I don't know what the F you are doing here, but I want you to leave as soon as possible, Claudio recalled. He said he told McMaster that if he found anything illegal, he was instructed to take your ass back to in handcuffs, period. Now retired, he said, he never learned that the Pentagon took any actions over his report. Of course they didn't. Of course they can consider all those people subhumans. It's actually normal culture. There is no any humane attitude towards, especially on this cavalier attitude towards the warfare. And again, Iraq war and even Afghanistan war, they are not really wars. They are high-intensity police operations, while definitely still presenting their own dangers. They do not even require the serious operation planning on the level of what is happening now in the special military operations. And again, Russians didn't even introduce their reserves yet, and probably not. But this is what the kind of the actions you can expect from these people. Was there any action taken by the report? No. You know that H.R. McMaster ended up in as the National Security Advisor in Trump administration, and then of course he wrote this book, you know, Dereliction of the Duty, in which he lamented as always that of course, you know, it was some kind of, I don't know, the weather, the, you know, some kind of the combination of the stellar, you know, of the constellations, which didn't allow United States win in Vietnam. And of course they were politicians, but hey, you know what, guy, you need to show the record, you need to show the winning record to show what you can do. Russia in 1990s and early 2000s being absolutely smashed economically, morally, psychologically, what have you, militarily, because of the internal problems. It still managed to pacify Chechnya, which was supported by across the Islamic world and obviously by other people from London and Washington. Enough to recall what Mr. Brzezinski, still alive, was doing there today with his organization, the Fund for the Support of Chechnya, essentially supporting terrorism and killing of the civilian people. And taking hostages was a pretty much regular situation, which culminated, obviously, in, guess what, Beslan. in 2004 when the children have been taken hostages, the whole school. This is the level of people. Guess what? Many of them in the West applauded this while trying to present their faces that, yeah, sorry, you know, Putin is guilty that, you know, 300 children have been killed by inhumans. But these are the, you know, sons of the bitches of the West. These are SOBs whom, you know, people in London and Washington applaud. That's that type of the attitude. And you can see it now. And then you have those losers who are actually, if they are real soldier of fortunes, well, I don't think so. They are protected by the Geneva Conventions. They are not considered real combatants. They should be executed then by Russians. But I'm thinking now that these guys, FSB and GU is now GRU. They know the faces now. They know who you are. So you better run. And especially if you, yeah, so I'm not going to go there. So they are cowards, basically. That's who they are. They are good at killing defenseless people, and their frustration and their mental issues and psychiatric issues, they've been exposed, and suddenly New York Times recognized it. Well, what stone they have been sleeping under for all those years, 2.5 years of the special military operation, when actually some people, they don't even understand what has been done to Russian prisoners of war by Ukrainians and their curators. I can tell you, they will put actually their cement, concrete in their anuses, for example. They obviously will, you know, basically cut their gonads off and things of this nature. Oh my gosh, where did we see that? Who could have possibly suggested them how to do it? Well, let me put it this way. CIA was involved there since actually not even 2013. It was longer than that. And you can recognize those people when they understand they are inferior warriors. They are not as good. They are not as good as the army. They are not as good as the actually combined force. And of course, with American military history, come on, I mean, it's just not even serious, guys. Okay, so that is why you have this... My God, soon, you know, 180 years, they still, I mean, discuss this, you know, discuss and debate and almost, you know, cut each other's throats about the, you know, civil war. Oh, just forget it, man, guys. Just look at Europe in the 20th century. The civil war just fades, you know, into the background as insignificant page of what was happening. And guess who won it in the end? And that's what they cannot forgive. And that is why it's combination of those factors which drives them to commit atrocities. For them, either Russian POWs or Russian civilians are inhumans, or rather subhumans. And this is what is happening for the last, you know, 2.5 years. So, but it's not just that. If we, you know, talking about this, there are other things which are happening, of course, and if you, you know, want to see what was happening in 2014, there you go. Here's your Welt. Welt, as you know, one of the major German outlets, and they say that, you know, they suddenly did their due diligence, and as you can see yourself, yesterday they talked about that Nord Stream attack is said to have been planned 10 years ago, in 2014. So, well, yeah, it's kind of almost, and as already stated, we're looking at the people who cannot fight Russia directly, so it's all about the indirect strategies, much of which involve, obviously, the terrorism and atrocities. So, as you can see yourself, the motive and perpetrators are still unclear. Sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they are unclear. Yeah, and people still, you know, how to put it politely, they still look at this and believe that, and that tells you how basically Russia doesn't want to deal with these people anymore. And I'm not talking about the Europeans or regular Americans. For the most part, I mean, especially Americans, they are generally indeed decent folks, and otherwise I wouldn't live in this country. There are many decent people, some of them, I mean, you know, with incredible biographies, really. But the point is, it all came to the situation that even New York Times cannot cover this up. And obviously they follow some kind of their agenda here. I think so they want to remove Biden, so they might not, you know, suddenly attach those things, you know, to Biden's already it's not even tarnished. The guy is a, you know, putrid cesspool, walking cesspool, and, you know, why don't add to this? You see, it was on the Biden watch, which was happening, those atrocities, and why don't they, you know, recall what happens to the Sevastopol beach and children and women and people who were just basically there taking sand baths and swimming in the Black Sea? That's the American warfare for you. So there you go. And then you begin to look also at this situation, which of course New York is now, well, Russians are inside New York, as you can see yourself. They are about 1 kilometer from the center of the New York and already took, you know, couple of regions, districts. So, and yeah, as I already stated, when the New York has been liberated, headlines will appear. You will understand that will be really hurtful. By now, Russians don't care. They really do not care about anything anymore. And just to show you that Brian Berletich goes on record and he says that even West admits Ukraine is out of air defenses and losing ground with no way to reverse it. Well, it is, and it's that's what is happening there. Basically, NATO is being demilitarized, and you know, no matter how they play, what way they're trying to play with it and spin it, you cannot cover facts anymore. You just can't. And again, you have to understand, average American military planner, he, let alone those amateurs from the whatever National Security Council and those Jake Sullivans and what have you, they view war only as the in Petanesque way, you know, that, oh yeah, we're around, you know, this 20 kilometers a day, we captured this territory. No, 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 no. Real war is not fought like this. You can, as one of those, you know, offensive strategies, advance and really advance, and in such, you know, basically environment, which, for example, United States Army never had the ability to advance this way. So against the enemies which are well out of the league, simply put. So, but the point is, in the end, what many people still do not recognize, you kill enemy. We are playing today the game which actually, as I already stated, the roots of this game, the roots of this complete misperception and miscalculation on the part of the West, they are on the battlefields of the World War II and the fake history which have been perpetuated around by all kinds of the court jesters and so-called historians who continue to talk about how Russians raped 2.5 million women, how Russians executed in their rear 1 million of own troops, and things like that. Projection. This is pure projection. And that is why they constantly need it, because this is once as incredible Michael Brenner stated, once single point of this edifice is put under the scrutiny, the whole edifice of American mythology, or Western mythology, of its, you know, benign influence and things of this nature, crumbles. And that's what happens now. And now they say, oh yeah, they execute Russian POWs, they throw grenade at surrendering guy, and yeah, they are frustrated, and they are losers. They know this, and this is how it exposes itself. And it manifests itself both on the institutional level, such as basically what we are observing, the collapse of the American political system and power, and both on the personal, individual levels, especially against the guys who never knew what real war is. And when they faced it, they lost it. Well, there you go. That was my point, as I wrote now 7 years ago, guys. Remember this? That's what I wrote in The Losing Military Supremacy. The United States military in future conflict will have to deal, in the case of conventional conflict, against a near peer, let alone peer, with an adversary who will have. And then I give the 5 points of what the United States doesn't have to fight the real war. And here it is. Today, the U.S. military will have to deal with the grim reality of its staging areas, rear supply facilities, and lines of communications being the target of massive salvos of long-range, high subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic missiles. The U.S. military has never encountered such a paradigm in its history. Moreover, already today, the U.S. Lower 48 is not immune from a conventional massive missile strike. I wrote 4 books on that, guys, and that now explains to you when they saw And believe me, this is still not real war. If Russians begin to fight a real war, not just special military operation, my God, run. And that is the point. And what I was talking today about is actually one of the major triggers which creates this attitude and actually atrocities and downright war crimes on the part of the American, volunteers. Yeah, sure. So, and this is what I wanted to tell you. And again, I want to repeat the disclaimer. I'm speaking specifically about the issues committed by the foreign volunteers, and especially American volunteers, which have been now documented. Well, it was documented by Russians a long time ago. Obviously, U.S. media would never touch it. But suddenly, New York Times decides to go on a record with this. And this was happening. So, it's about this specific situation, and of course about the record of the U.S. Army, which is known, historically recorded, and starting from My Lai massacre and things of this nature. So, don't consider this the broad brush. There are still, as I already stated, many people of integrity, many people of honor and courage in the U.S. military. But facts are facts, and they cannot be denied. And this is what I wanted to tell you today. So, and as always, those who like what I do, guys, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. And what can I say? Have a nice rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.